About 12 years ago, I bought a Dodge 3500 four-wheel drive at a DEA auction down in Texas. And this truck came with all of the accessories and accoutrement that you would expect from a former smuggler vehicle, including some infrared lights on the front and a very sketchy, highly modified engine and some blood stains in the carpet from somebody who had apparently had a very bad day in the front seat of my truck. Since buying that truck, it has been an incredible adventure, not just in the places I've been with it, but in the people that I've met. That truck I had at a car show when I met Ed Bolian for the first time, which brought me into the VINwiki family, which has brought innumerable cool people and cool experiences into my life. As exciting as owning this truck has been, however, it has brought some challenges. Needless to say, undoing a lot of the smuggler modifications, unsmugglifying as I like to call it. I had to rebuild the engine on it. I've had a fire from some sketchy wiring, a lot of problems with it, just things that were done to that truck to make it easy to hide and get away from the law enforcement, but not really to make it last a long time like I've tried to make it. I've had this truck for over a decade, but not long after I bought it, I thought, well, if a truck or car gets seized from the cartel, are they ever going to come looking for it? And probably not. They have way bigger things on their mind than tracking down an old pickup truck that they used to own. So I wasn't really worried about it. I did have a kind of a weird encounter with a guy within the first year I bought it. I bought it in Texas. I'm back here in Georgia, but I was helping a buddy of mine move, and we loaded up a bunch of old Range Rovers on a flatbed. And a friend of his that showed up to help move rolls up, and he goes, "Man," looked at my truck, and he said, "Man, if we were back in Texas, I'd swear that truck belonged to the drug smuggler my sister used to date." Now, of course, I kept my mouth shut because I thought at the time, well, if this guy might still know these people, then I don't want to tip the hand as to where this truck might be. So I didn't say a word and just kind of played it off like, wow, haha, what a coincidence. But, over time, over the last 10 years, I've heavily modified this truck, and I don't know what the statute of limitations for the cartel is. But again, despite the fact that it's been in a magazine after I modified it to be an overlander, it's been a lot of time at car shows, and it's been featured online here on VINwiki. But thinking that, well, 10 years have gone by, nobody could possibly have an interest in this old truck. For the most part, that seemed to be true until an incident just recently. I had packed up to go move to England to do the Hot Wheels Ultimate Challenge TV show for a while, and that was a great experience. We talked about that another time. My shop was full of motorcycles. Every driveway of any friend I had one of my old cars in it. But what was I going to do with this truck and my motorcycle race trailer? Now together, they're about 65 feet long, all put together, and that's not something you can just stick in a driveway or park in a parking deck. But I had a friend of mine that let me put it in the street in front of his house, and I thought, okay, it'll be all right to leave it there. I parked it, stashed all my tools, put everything away, got underneath the hood. I disabled the starter solenoid and did a few things to it to make it literally impossible to drive away in it, just in case. And I hit the road and took off. Had an amazing experience. Got back to the States a couple months later and went to retrieve my beloved pickup truck, only to discover that somebody had broken into it. It had been, who knows at what point this had happened. It had been a while. They did not break the window out. It's actually got this kind of a weird little laminate on the windows, and at a different time somebody had tried to break in. They'd smashed one of the windows or hit one of the windows with something, and it scratched the laminate, but it didn't actually break the window. And this particular incident, they had tried that as well. There was a marking on the window where it looked like somebody had tried to hit it and with no success. But what they proceeded to do was to take a chisel and just literally hammer out the door lock cylinder on it and get into the truck that way. And in the process, they had completely trashed the door panel and the switches to the lights and the mirrors, everything in that door. The radio and everything, the dashboard was all ripped out. They'd stolen the radio out. They took my beloved 12-inch subwoofers out of the back, so I had to replace those, of course. I had lived on that street in the past and knew all the neighbors there, which is why my truck was actually down the street in front of a different neighbor's house, had a little more room. And the lady that lived there said, "Yeah, I was home the night your truck got broken into the first time, and I saw somebody out there messing with it, and somebody had looked in a few times, and she was always walking her dog, and she was always kind of the eyes of the neighborhood. Well, I noticed somebody looking in it, and they never did anything. But then one night, somebody was out there, and I heard some banging around. I called the police, but of course, they didn't come out. And then she said about a month later, some kids had gotten into it as well, and that's when the stereo and all that kind of stuff disappeared. But one of my favorite things about this truck is the way it looks. And as superficial as that sounds, we all love cars. They're exciting. They're sleek sports cars and sexy old cars, and this truck just looks like it is ready for action, and I love it. And it kind of looks sort of scary, and I don't do it on purpose, but, it's all black. It's got all these pipes and chains and hooks and things for the off-road hanging off of it. It's just kind of menacing, sort of flat black all over. It's loud, it's smoky, it's big. I have a sculpted ram skull as the hood ornament. So, you know, the truck actually is, I've been told, I pulled up to a house one time and there were some kids there, and a couple of the kids got upset. They thought a villain or a monster or something was showing up. And of course, I never want to scare anybody. I'm a pretty nice guy, but it's fun when your vehicle's got a character like that. So it makes me wonder, you know, if you're just a rando teenager out breaking into cars and you turn onto a street and there's a truck there that has got a skull on the front of it, and it's all black, and it's covered in hooks and chains and big tires, all this stuff. You know, that's not the kind of truck that, I mean, I've never broken into a car, but if I was, I would probably pick a car that looked like it belonged to somebody that wasn't going to come looking for me afterwards. And this truck definitely looks like it's got some evil behind it. So whoever broke into it, they must have really wanted those speakers out of the back seat, or else they knew what they were looking for, because it is not the kind of truck that most people would want to tangle with. It made me wonder, like, what got going the first time. So I'm going through the truck, and I realized that, like, all the literature for the truck, the owner's manual, all that kind of stuff had been in there before. And the truck only came with one thing when I bought it, which was a motel key with the key with a little key fob from a little motel, but the number of the room had been rubbed off. And you know, I just always figured that in its smuggler life, that was probably some sort of like a key to some kind of drop point somewhere. And anyway, it came with that key. But the only other clue, I guess, to that truck's past, it wasn't really a clue, but in the owner's manual, there was some, you know, a couple of phone numbers that I never called, but a couple of phone numbers, a few other numbers scribbled here and there. And I just figured that it was, you know, the part number to the oil filter. You know, we all do that. You know, you write down the Napa oil filter your car takes, or the last date you got the oil change. And there were a couple of dates and numbers and stuff scribbled in the owner's manual, and I just figured it was part of its past life. Never thought much of it. And probably, you know, I figured they just opened the glove compartment and just scooped everything out of it in there. You know, the flashlight, hoping they might have a set of keys or something, whatever else is in there. The truck's trashed. Still runs, of course, because this thing always runs. No matter what happens to this truck, when it caught on fire, still cranked up and ran. It's been sunk in a tidal creek, cranked up and ran. It's been through so many adventures, that truck always cranks up and runs, and sure enough, cranked up and ran again. They trashed the interior pretty hard. You know, the audio system can be replaced. I've worked in a deal with Kicker Audio, met up with them at SEMA, where they're going to help me get the whole truck set up on the insides and get my tunes bumping again. You know, I can ride around Atlanta listening to my Outcast and all of that, and my Southern rock and everything. I partnered up with Rooftop Overland and a few other companies, and we're going to start really working to, you know, the truck was set up nicely before, but this is a 10-year-old build on it. So we're going to update some things and really get it going again. I've got some exciting projects in mind for it, including going out and staking some land claims. Turns out you can, through the Mineral Act, through the Department of Interior, it is still possible, like back in the frontier days, to go out into the wilderness, and in certain areas you can go stake, literally drive a stake into the ground and claim these little 4-acre plots of land. And so we're going to go out and do that with the truck, do a few cool things like that, just see what we might find. No real reason other than just seemed like a cool thing to do, go stake some land like in the frontier days. So got a lot of plans for the truck coming up. I'm going to put a lot of work into it. I've got some sponsors I've kind of partnered up with. They're going to put a lot of work into it, and it's just too cool of a truck to leave it down. It's been parked for a while now, where I've been trying to get time to go back and fix all this damage to it. This truck has been the vehicle, both figuratively and literally, to so many cool experiences in my life. As I said, you know, I'm definitely going to, once and for all, make sure there is nothing left in that truck anybody would want to mess with. I think I might paint it pink or something this time just to disguise it, but hopefully whatever this truck's evil past is will finally be left behind, and I can go forward and do some cool things with it and leave all that bad mojo behind.
I start most of my days browsing Auto Tempest for my next bad decision of a car, but did you know that supporting Auto Tempest can also help support all the great content that they support in the automotive YouTube world? I know that you've probably enjoyed a lot of videos that they supported and a lot of channels that they've been sponsoring for years, perhaps without even knowing it. So check them out now at the link in the description below. It is the most powerful way to shop for your next car, because you'll see all the listings showing up in one search, and you can search by any criteria that you want, but it also helps make automotive YouTube a much better place. So check them out now, autotempest.com, all the cars, one search.